Hello and welcome to the Aten Inquisition, where we spend a little bit of time getting to know the members of the populace of Atenveldt. We're your hosts, Morgan and Elizabeth, King and Queen, during these really just never-ending times of plague. Our guest today is Aud the Beardless. Would you like to introduce yourself?
My name is Aud the Beardless. I am a member of Clan Ranseca. I live in the Shire of Windale.
Well, welcome.
Awesome. So how long have you been playing in the SCA?
I think since around 2001 or maybe 2000. I got my AOA in 2001, I think.
And how did you find it?
At the time, I was working at Hastings, which is a book, video, music store that has it's gone out of business and closed. This was years ago, but I worked with someone there who was a longtime member of the Shire, one of the kind of founding members, and just being a total geek, we really hit it off. And she introduced me to the local group here. And at the time, I really wanted defense, so they introduced me to the Shire of Londinium. And I met all of those folks down there, and I fell deep into the SCA hole right away. So
then you've always played Atenveldt?
Yeah, I mean I've been in Kingman for a long time. I moved down here when I was in high school, graduated from high school here, left for a couple of years, and came back, and I've been here pretty much ever since. So
do you have a favorite story from when you started playing?
I have lots of great stories, but I think my very first kingdom level event was magical. I was just absolutely hooked from beginning to end. It was the first crown tournament that Duke Jonathan von Trotha won. So, and I wasn't even authorized yet as a rapier fighter, but my white scarf, Regan Weistrachen had me come and introduced me to the wider fencing community and to a lot of very cool peers. And I mean, just we weren't even at the event yet. We got to the hotel that evening and everyone was staying there, and she introduced me to Maestra Deborah and Juan, Diego. They were both, I think, Baron and Baroness of Sundragon at the time, and they gave me just huge hugs. And then we went right into somebody's room and we were drinking scotch. And he and I sat down on the floor together, and he was teaching me how to dagger fight. And then, I mean, Crown Tournament is a fantastic event. I love it anyway. I think it's one of the best events that you could go to. And the next day I fought pickups with people, even though I wasn't authorized. So I had a wonderful time. It was incredibly welcoming. I met so many amazing people. I had a phenomenal time. So
Awesome. So tell us about your persona and your heraldry. I know I can see it behind you.
Yeah, that was my heraldry. So this is actually, it's registered as a badge right now, but I need to change it to be my registered arms. For a long time, I didn't really have a persona. I used to go by the name Isabella Evangelista. So that's probably where most people know me from before I kind of had my break. And I dressed as a late period kind of SCA fencer. I didn't have a very strong persona, but then I started fighting armored combat, and I was spending a lot of time on the armor archive, and I saw pictures of the combat of the 30 for the first time. And I was like, whoa, how do I do that? And I fell in love with the 14th century. So I switched and actually did I didn't change my name, but I switched as much of my garb to 14th century as I could. All of my hard suit kit was 14th century, and I did that for years. And I still love it. I love the 14th century, so I still have a lot of that same stuff. I love the time period is very interesting. The material culture is super cool. I love making the things from that period of time. I love all the heraldry, everything. To me, that's kind of the sort of golden age of the Middle Ages. But then I took a break because I came out of the closet. And there's a lot that when you're, I think, later in life and you're married and have a child and all of that is very complicated. Mm-hmm. So I sort of needed to reform myself. And so as I kind of came back to the SCA, I, in the interim, had fallen in love with Viking Age stuff. And that's actually what my brother, who is my Laurel now, his focus. And so we really nerd out about that. So I decided, well, I need a new name. I need new garb. I'm kind of reinventing myself to be this new person. So I chose the name Odd from the saga, like Laxtola saga, I think it is, the lady who like divorces her husband because he accuses her of being like too manly for wearing pants, and there's a whole blood feud, and he divorces her, but then there's a revenge story, and he winds up getting killed by, I think, her family members or something. And so I thought that was a very interesting, being the person that I am now is more representative, like wearing pants. And it can be a man or woman's name. And then I went with the Beardless because I felt like that represented me pretty well. So I'm now doing a lot more like 10th century Swedish, like burqa stuff. A lot of times it comes down to like the arts that I like to do and the material culture of something. And it's really fun because I get to nerd out with my brother about that. So I'm kind of like, I'm always going to, I think, be split between the 14th century and Viking age. I love them both. But I don't have like a established story or anything for my persona other than, kind of vaguely, well, I'm a fighter, so it's probably something that I did, and I'll probably wear martial trappings and stuff, even though I'm kind of retired from hardsuit combat now.
Totally fair. So what are your personal goals within the SCA?
When I took my break, I was in a bad place. And it took me a long time to sort out all of that stuff. And so now just coming back, I really am just here to just have fun, do things that I love, show other people the things that I love. I love to get together with people and work on projects. I like to teach. I'm not like a formal teacher so much, but I love to like, hey, come on over to my house and we're gonna work on this. Or if you're interested in this thing, I'll tell you everything that I know about it. And if I know how to make it, I'll teach you. We'll do it together. So I'm really focused on just kind of enjoying all the different things that we do. And I'm actually going back to the rapier field now too, which is something I haven't picked up a rapier in over 10 years, I think. So that is going to be something I'm going to start doing again.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but I love the arts. I think the arts is probably always going to be my number one thing. I'm a continual maker of all the things. I need to do everything. So.
Yeah, you're not kidding. So just to interject in a little shameless plug here, you're making the banner for our COVID challenge.
Yes, it should be done next week.
I'm so excited about it. So when we were talking and you're like, I don't know, just go look at my page. I'm like scrolling for days. Like, I had no idea how many banners you've made, and they're just stunning. So
I think I've made more than literally anyone. I stopped counting like around 500.
That's crazy.
And so
I
don't have pictures of all of them. I've made a lot.
You're definitely a maker.
So in your time in the SCA, are there any jobs that you've done or arts that you've done that you're especially proud of?
I think I will always, in a way, be a scribe at heart, even though I'm not doing as much of that right now. I am very proud of all of the work that I did, sometimes very short notice, because I love that art as a service. Like, that is huge for me. I love making some beautiful piece of art, knowing that I'm never going to see it again. It's going to go to someone else's house, and it's probably a part of a day that is going to make them feel so good about what they're doing. Like, that to me is probably one of the greatest like gifts that you can give. So I love being a part of the Scrabble arts community, and I'm still doing some here and there, but not as much as I used to.
Is there anything outside of what you would consider your normal path that you would like to try?
Well, now I'm a deputy kingdom web minister, so that's new.
Hey, that's a thing.
It's kind of Floki twisted my arm. I've held other offices before. I was the herald for the Shire for a few years. I did a stint as MOAS for a bit. And I've always done, I try to do service as well. I, served feasts or volunteered at Gate at Estrella, or, done security and different things like that. So I kind of think of myself as a well-rounded participant. you know, and then we all of us like serve in small ways too that don't necessarily get recognition. You know, I'm always happy to help tear down camp, set things up, carry stuff for people, you know, just all of the things that we have to do to kind of make everything run. So
Yeah.
So what do you think that you're known for?
it used to be scribal arts, but now I don't know, because I have this new persona as Odd the Beardless is new to me, and you know, I kind of had just started playing again, and then COVID hit, so I don't know that Odd is known as much for as what Isabella was known for. Like, it was, you know, at a time where I was, you know, making a ton of scrolls. I was lucky enough to receive a number of arts awards that I think were centered around that. Outside of Atenveldt, I'm known as a banner maker. I haven't done a lot of work for it inside the kingdom, I think because there's so many really talented artisans that live here, but I have made banners for all the rest of the known world for the most part. So outside of Atenveldt, and then I've been a part of the women's hardsuit fighting community for a very long time. I helped way back in the day when Sword Maiden, the website was up, I helped with administer and moderate their forums. And then when the site went down, I, along with a couple of other people, we created a new forum. And so, you know, before Facebook, that's kind of where everybody was. And a lot of those folks have now migrated to Facebook, and it's still a very like thriving community. And I think I made a lot of great digital friendships from there. So that's probably where some other folks know me from.
Yeah, well, you were definitely busy back then. I can remember seeing all of your posts on the Armor Archive, and I remember being inspired by your passion for putting together your 14th century kit and how much you put into that.
Yeah, I'm still addicted. Like the 14th century, when I look at this stuff, I'm just like, oh my God, I love it. I love all the clothes. I don't unfortunately have the skill to make some things that I would like to be able to. So I need to work on my fiber arts skills, because there's a lot of things that I would like to make that I'm not very good at doing, but you know, that's coming down the road, I think. So.
Well, and you could always trade.
Yeah, I mean, I've done quite a lot of trades. A lot of armor I traded for banners and stuff. So I'm always happy to do that as well.
So what advice do you have for a new player?
I think when you're new, you should not commit to anything. Like, don't commit to like serious relationships with peers or households or any of that. You should just dip your toes in and do anything that's interesting to you. If it seems interesting, go try it. You don't have to do anything forever. Like I've been doing this for the better part of 20 years now, which is kind of crazy to say.
Right.
You know, and I've done a lot of different things, and you don't always have to commit to something. You don't need to commit to a name. You don't need to commit to a device. You don't need to commit to a persona. I love like historicity as much as the next like historical nerd. I love that stuff so much, but you don't have to commit to any of those things. You shouldn't feel pressured to do it. You should just come and have a good time. Find the things that you love, find your people, and then, you know, you can always do new things down the road. There's no like limitations on, you know, changing what you do.
Yeah.
So do you have anybody that inspires you?
That's a long list. I'm continuously inspired by my brother. When we grew up, I was the artist, and I feel like that, unfortunately, like he did not have the opportunity to explore that as much as he should have, because he's highly intelligent, but also incredibly creative, just incredibly creative. And watching him take his own artistic journey and really develop all those skills, and he's teaching me things now. I'm inspired by him every day, and I love having him as my laurel, because I want to work with him on projects, and I just cherish that time that we have together. I'm inspired a lot by Maestra Deborah and Master Diego, because they have always been those kinds of people who, like, doesn't matter how much time has gone by, like whenever we're together, like they fill me with that energy to go play and do wonderful things. And they always have great things to say about other people. My household always inspires me. Sir Dougal and Mr. Samay, they've been in my life for a long time now, for 20 years. And sometimes when I am frustrated, they're the perfect sounding board, and they help me find like that optimism that I need to find again. You know, when you've been doing this a long time, I think you need to find those people who can help you work through whatever problems you're having and then inspire you again.
Mhm. So on a lighter note, maybe, what's keeping you busy during COVID?
I painted a lot of Warhammer miniatures.
That's fair.
I've been busy on and off. I think like everybody, like I go through times where I don't want to do anything.
Mhm.
And I think that's okay. Like, I don't feel like anyone should feel pressured to have to fill all of this time with being productive, because it's okay to just not be productive. You know, it's like things are rough right now, and it's okay to not learn all the things, do all the things, and make all the things. So I've been doing a lot of non-SCA arts. Like I said, I've been painting a Warhammer army because I've been playing Warhammer with my brother, and that's been really fun. I haven't done that in a long time. But I've done a little bit of Scrabble work. I'm working on some projects. I want to recreate a belt from Birka. So I started working on that because I need a new green belt, and I've been learning to null bind, and I'm not super good at it. So my belt is real weird looking. So
character.
Yeah. You know, and I mean, eventually I want to make hats and socks and things like that. But like I said, fiber arts are challenging for me. I'm much better at, you know, being a metalhead or painting and things like that. So I still have been doing banners on and off and just kind of puttering around, working in the garden, you know, trying to stay sane.
Yep.
Missing people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've been playing for a relatively long time. Have there been any traditions that you've seen go away that you'd like to see come back?
I don't know that I've seen traditions go away. I mean, all the ones that I feel like were important to me and important, at least to this kingdom, I feel like are still there. We still do things relatively the same way. I think the SEA is growing and changing, and most of what we're trying to do is be better in ourselves, be better people, be nicer to each other, be more inclusive, be more aware, include more people in all of the things that we do, and that's wonderful to me. But I mean, as far as like the real traditions, I don't know that I could say anything's gone away.
You know, I'm thinking, I don't know that I could say anything.
Yeah.
I mean, really, like,
Hard question.
our you know, crown tournament still looks the same. You know, our awards get given out. Peerage ceremonies still look like they always have. You know.
Yeah. So which tradition is your favorite?
That's hard. I have to think about that one for a second.
Well, while you're pondering that, is there one you'd like to see go away?
Not that I can think of. I mean, every kingdom is different.
Mm-hmm.
And I've only ever lived in Atenveldt, so of course I think all the other kingdoms are weird in the
And
way that
they
do
are.
things.
Yeah, it's
And maybe wrong. No, yeah. Which is like, I'm always interested in kind of seeing how people do things differently in other places. I think if anything, it's not necessarily a tradition, but just maybe the way that we do some things would probably be helpful. Like, I'm not a peer, but I'm sure that there are organizational tools that could make some of those meetings a little bit easier on folks, and you know, keeping track of everybody. Like, I think we're kind of growing into a digital age now that is takes a lot of like time and effort to kind of wrangle, but in the end we'll probably create processes that are better for everyone. I love to watch peerage ceremonies. I mean, I think especially hearing people speak for someone, to me, is powerful. I think you get a real sense of who someone is by how they affect other people. And that gives you a lot of insight into why that person, even if you don't know them, is being elevated to a peerage.
Yeah, it's maybe one of the most poignant parts of those ceremonies. So what's your favorite event?
Crown Tournament, or maybe Estrella War. But I love Crown Tournament. There's, I don't know, something about it. It's everyone is always out in their coolest garb. I love to see all of the banners and pavilions set up, and it's short enough to where you can kind of do it for a weekend. It doesn't require like Estrella War a ton of effort and, you know, planning and all this kind of stuff. Like Estrella War is kind of a deal, you know, like any big war. I think it takes a lot of work, but I think Crown Tournament is kind of one of those places where you can go and get the essence of what the SCA feels like, at least for me. And that might be because my first event was a Crown Tournament, that I will always hold like a special place in my heart.
Yeah. Well, no, well, that and like all the pageantry that they've added in the last 6 or so years, with the boards that turn, and they've got they start drumming before they announce the next round. Just a lot of stuff to engage the populace.
I think so.
It's a lot of ceremony too that happens there. Like, yeah.
And I'm kind of, I guess at heart, kind of like a traditionalist type person. So all of that ceremony, like really like kind of lives in my heart in a way. You know, I've always, because I was a kid wanting to be a knight and, you know, loving that sort of medieval aesthetic. And when you buy into that side of what we kind of call the dream, which is not a great term, but when you sort of invest a part of yourself in the belief in these ceremonies and oaths and stuff meaning something. You know, at the end of the day, when I go to work, it doesn't mean anything to anyone else, but it means something to me in my heart, and I know it does for so many other people, and that's kind of what makes it magical.
Yes.
So what would make a perfect event for you?
Not being too windy, because here the wind blows really hard one way during one time of the day and later the other. Not being too hot. I guess great bathroom availability.
Yeah,
That's a thing.
solid.
Yeah, and grass, I guess.
So is there anything sort of new or different that you think would be beneficial to add to events?
I think like if we can find ways to make them more accessible for folks who struggle with accessibility and things like that, that would be really great. Because the goal, I think, is to want more people to be able to experience and share together. So whatever we can do to kind of facilitate, to make it easier for people to be able to come, is to me important. And I know a lot of folks like being able to see things digitally streamed, which is really great. And I think that doing some of these really cool like arts and sciences showcases online is fantastic. That opens things up for a lot of people who are less able to travel. So I love seeing things like more incorporation of the digital into the SCA, where it makes a lot of sense. It makes it so that people can participate even if they can't get to events all the time, because I know some people can only travel maybe once or twice a year, and that's it.
Yeah, that's the one positive that's happened in the shutdown has been that the digital content that's available now to get new people engaged is overwhelming almost. There's so much of it.
Yeah,
It's sort of
always kind of been there.
Well, but it's so much more organized. Like there's a whole group of, like, for fighting, Like
Yeah.
for heavy fighting, there's never really been much. There's little bits and pieces. You could maybe find some videos on YouTube.
It's true.
But there's this group that have organized, and there's a Google doc that it's a spreadsheet, and it's got like 500 lines, and each line is a link to a drill
Oh, wow.
or some kind of class. On there's just this, like, it's overwhelming to me. Like, I'm like, there's so much of it I want to read.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah,
I don't
that's
even
true.
know where to start. And just to think about what it would have been like to have that in the beginning.
Yeah.
I really think that COVID has dragged us sort of kicking and screaming into the digital age.
I
Finally,
think so.
you know, we're finally actually using technology.
Yeah.
I hope that that continues even when we're able to, you know, see each other in person again.
I think it will. And there's actually like a whole bunch of people who that's how they have found the SEA in COVID. They've never even been to an event, but they've been doing things. So we'll see.
Yeah, we've actually been hearing about quite a bit of recruitment going on during this, which is just astounding and amazing like that.
Yeah.
I can't wait to meet these people that found us online and decided to hang out with us, you know?
It's been a big part of why we've like been brainstorming constantly, trying to come up with ways to keep engaged with the populace, so that there was something for those new people when we are open. So do you have a favorite Out of Kingdom event?
I have actually never been to an out of kingdom event.
Okay,
Well,
we're gonna have to fix that.
That'll have to be rectified.
There's part of me that wants to go to Pensick, but it's like hot and humid. I'm kind of like,
It's worth
not
it.
about it. Yeah, but you know, my first Laurel probably would love it if I would come out there. So that would be something on my bucket list. I'd actually really love to do Great Western.
I was going to say that one's close and it's got great weather 90% of the time.
Well, my wife actually her family lives in that area too. So it would be kind of fun to go visit and go to Great Western.
That's perfect. So if it's a hot year, you can get out of the heat.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, we're sleeping here. Hi. No, that's definitely a good one. Highly recommended.
Yeah.
I really wanted to at one time. Well, I wanted to do the Combat of the 30 so bad. You have no idea. And I really also wanted to do the tournament that they fight over barriers, like the trying to remember, the Knights of St. George or something. I'm trying to remember who organizes that tournament.
Sure. I know that there's a paw that happens at Great Western.
Yeah, I think that's it. So those were like my things that I really wanted to do, which I have to revise now because I don't fight armored combat anymore. So
then maybe we get you in the Valkyrie tournament at Great Western.
What's that?
So it's all sponsored by Ladies of the Rose. So you have to be on a Rose's team in order to fight. She gets one knight and one non-belt for her hard suit champions, and then one mod or white scarf and one not. And then it's a double elimination tournament, you know. But
that sounds like a good goal. I like that.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I actually ducked out of it a lot of years and then finally got to fight in it and was remiss that I had ducked out of it so many times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that may be the heaviest question of the evening. What does the word peer mean to you?
It's not heavy for me because, to be honest, I know that people have their horror stories about peers, but I have been so fortunate in that I really only know good ones, personally.
It's good.
You know, there's crappy ones out there, but we're all humans. And so there's going to be people who are kind of crappy and you can't do a whole lot about it. But like, I've never met an attack Laurel ever. I've never, like, at least not in my own personal experience. So I do feel fortunate because all of the folks that I was introduced to are fantastic and they only introduced me to fantastic people. And so I've never really had to deal with like jerks. I mean, you're never going to have everyone be your cup of tea and you're not always going to be someone else's cup of tea. It just is what it is. There's always going to be like clashes of personality, but it might also be, I'm pretty good at taking, I like criticism in terms of like as an artist, I need that. And I know a lot of people are reluctant to give it, but I want it because it makes me better. And so I don't have maybe the same emotional attachment to doing art that some other people do, where they struggle to be able to like incorporate what maybe they interpret as mean words. I don't do that as much. So like I said, I've had conversations with people that maybe someone else might have taken a different way, but for me, it was just talking shop, I guess. So for me, peers are leaders in the society, and leaders are not always perfect. They're going to make mistakes, and they deserve to be given just as much sort of slack as the rest of us, especially with COVID, the isolation, we've all been away from each other for so long. Like, I'm ready to give anybody the benefit of the doubt. I want to get everybody that I know the biggest hug in the world. I just want to, come back and be nicer to each other and more understanding, and, try to maybe forgive old slights, try to be a better person myself. And so I don't put peers on such a giant pedestal that they can't, stand up to like a kind of normal person's scrutiny. So
I wish more people did.
I'm lucky. I've been around so many of them. For me, like, I'm surrounded by them. My brother and my sister-in-law are both Laurels. I know a ton of Pelicans. I know Knights. So I'm lucky because I get to see them as people. And like, I have had so many great conversations with them when I was struggling.
Mm-hmm.
They're the ones who gave me the best advice. My brother told me, get over yourself, and he was right. And that's some of the best advice I could have gotten. Other ones have talked me through like so many different struggles. Brian and Leah I've had long conversations with them about like all of the difficulties of being on like a peerage path and being an apprentice, and all of the sort of struggles that you go through, and not the dark side, but I think sometimes the more hidden side of being a student, that it is fraught with difficulty and frustration sometimes. And so I feel very fortunate because I've had so many people around me that I could talk to about it. So I look up to them as leaders and friends and family.
I think there's a lot of sort of introspection and personal growth that has to happen on that path.
Yeah.
Which is, it's hard work, right? And
it is.
It's not just a matter of, I'm going to go do my craft and get better at my craft, and that's just going to get me there. Like,
it's not, because just being good at the thing is not the only part of it.
Mm-hmm.
No, there's awards for that.
Yeah.
We get that, in the martial side of things as well, where it's like, yeah, the guy's a great fighter. It's not a great human.
Yeah. And and I think sometimes like age makes a difference too, because I'm a very different person now at 40 than I was when I was 30.
Well, that's kind of goes with what you were saying earlier, like just letting things go, like, past grievances and stuff. Like, there's so many conversations I've had where I've just asked people, like, why are you carrying all that anger? Like, doesn't it get heavy? Just put it down and walk away from it. Yeah,
it does. And I think having people to help you through those feelings is so important to me. And I've been pretty open about my own journey as an apprentice, because I felt like I flamed out pretty hard. And then like years later, like processing through all of that and having perspective and time has made a huge difference, and maturity. And then also so many people talked me through a lot of those things, and it made such a difference. So I feel like that's what peers are partly there for. Mm-hmm. And so, we should never just rely on one. Like, I get great perspectives from people who are outside of my primary discipline. Like, I just feel like you talk to people, be honest, and they will help you, and don't be afraid to do that.
Yeah. And I do like that you have to look to more than just your one peer, because certainly, like, if you're aspiring to be a member of an order, it's not just your peer that's going to put you there, right? It's the order that has to agree, and then the current crown, of course. So absolutely, it's important to get the perspective of other peers as well.
Well, and I think anytime you input, more input's always better. Yeah.
That's very true.
So is there anything that you'd like to see the peers do that could improve the SCA?
I think everybody is really trying right now, actually. I've seen more conversation in the last 2 years probably about that. And some of those conversations have been so hard and they're very emotionally charged for people. But those conversations to me are what will get us through like growing pains and sort of sustain us into the future. You know, understanding like how it feels to be trying to walk that road and what sometimes happens to, you know, to people, like the pitfalls, and what advice is good and what advice doesn't work for a lot of people, and you know, or holding each other accountable, you know. And that's hard in an organization where, you know, you are representative as a peer of everyone else in your order, and sometimes unfairly. It's not your fault if there's somebody who's a jerk. Like, you didn't put them there, you know. Typically the crown did, and there can be all kinds of reasons why someone might be the jerk on that day. It might be a misunderstanding. It might be because they're just not this person's cup of tea. They might really be a jerk, you know. And I see more effort to navigate that now than I've ever seen, which I think is fantastic. And I know that it's very hard. You know, everyone has super strong feelings about their own peerage and being a peer or not being a peer. And, you know, members of the populace have very high expectations and high expectations for accountability, which is, it's hard even in the real world. You know, I work in the kind of job where accountability is constantly talked about and we still struggle with it. So I think it's good what's happening. It's just going to be hard. Yeah.
Well, I think unfortunately people are notoriously terrible communicators.
Yeah.
Especially if it's a tough conversation.
True.
A lot of people would rather not broach it and just hope it works itself out.
Yeah.
That's not the way it works, though.
No, sadly, it's not.
No,
and I think that's how you get people that end up in those, that, you know, that undertow where they're not moving forward and they don't know why. And then they have that frustration because nobody will tell them.
I mean, I was that person for a while. But you know, my own like terrible brain weasels are super self-destructive. And so, you know, at the time I just couldn't find the answers. And so it was like little hamster wheel spinning all the time, you know. And now I look back and I was just like, man, just chill out. That's what I wish I could tell myself 10 years ago, relax and chill out. But it comes with time. And it comes with time. And that's, I don't know how else to put it.
Yep. I totally had something I was going to say and I lost it.
If I nudge it.
No, it's not going to help. It's gone.
Oh, so tell us a story. You've had lots of experience. Just reach out and grab one.
One time, I would not have gotten on the armored combat field had it not been for Maester Deborah and her ladyship Regan Weisstrachen, because I would follow either of them into the gates of hell. So I didn't think that I had the chops for hardsuit. I just really did not. And my very first Estrella, though, fighting hardsuit, I followed them out there like a little puppy. And I think it was actually my second year was the year we did Ragnarok. So that like 4-hour crazy res battle. Yep. We were out there as an all lady unit from the Barony of Sundragon, which was so fun. And we were out there for the entirety, which was a very long day. And when we got back to camp, like everybody, we dogpiled on top of each other and I was on the very bottom. And so that was just a magical war, I think. That was the same war that we were out at Ragnarok, and Regan asked me if I wanted to spritz because they had people with spray bottles coming along spraying all the fighters, and we were like on a 15-minute break or something in between. And I had my helmet off, and I'm sitting there, and it's hot that day. And I was like, yeah, I'd like a spritz. And she took a big swig of water and just spit it right in my face. And I remember sitting there and just like blinking, and I'm dripping wet. And it was like, that was kind of nice, but at the same time, really? Really? But she was that kind of person. She was very irreverent.
I don't know that I ever knew her.
Did that help inspire you?
It didn't. It's gone.
Well, come up with a question.
Old age.
It's your turn.
So, what has been the most difficult art piece that you've ever done?
The most difficult art piece. I think probably Sir Dougal's scroll, his knighting scroll, because I had such a short amount of time to get it done. I worked on it like 8 hours a day for a couple of weeks because I was lucky enough to be able to do that at the time. And I want to say it was my very first peerage scroll too. So it was a challenge to like learn how to gild things, which I'd never really done before. Like do a huge art piece, like try to make it customized for him, and then to get it done on time without anyone noticing that I was doing it, because I had all of like Dougal's squires and everybody, we hung out all the time, and actually Malcolm saw it. And so he knew what was happening. And there's like a whole story about that. And I actually didn't know that he saw it until years later. I thought I managed to hide it away before he saw it. And it was such a short amount of time that Alex described, like I have pictures of her the day before the event doing the calligraphy in like on the coffee table in my living room, because it had to get done. It was a very short amount of time. So that's one of the most challenging, but I'm constantly trying to challenge myself. I made a helmet for myself, which was one of the most difficult things I've ever done. It was much harder than I thought it was going to be. And I was like, respect. This is why I'm going to pay, Acer Metalworks. I'm going to pay Dave like all that money to make me a helmet next time, because it's difficult. So
yeah.
He makes it look easy, but it's not.
I know.
I've spent time at his shop, and it's still.
Yeah.
So you touched on it a little bit earlier, but you, from what I gathered, you have a talent that most artisans don't. You can take criticism. So what's your secret? Well,
long ago, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a comic book artist. And so I've had like a pencil or something like that in my hand since I was like, as long as I can remember. And I would spend all of my free time drawing. And I would draw like, I had stacks of paper that I would throw away, because I would try to draw something and I would get to a certain point and it wouldn't be right, and I'd throw it away, because I am the hardest. No one can be harder on me than me. I can look at anything that I've ever done and see every single mistake that I've ever made, regardless of how happy I am with it at the end. So if I am my worst critic, no one else can possibly be harder on me than that. But I also applied to go to college at the Joe Kubert School in New Jersey, and I had to go through a phone interview with a portfolio. And I also had art teachers who were very hard on me. Like they would really grade my work and push me to be better. And so just being able to sort of step back and like look at something objectively it's a skill that you develop. Like you have to sit there and tell yourself when you're getting feedback about something, like whatever emotional stuff is happening, like go shush, the same way, like if you're feeling bad about yourself, like you have to tell that voice like no, and talk yourself through it. And it gets easier over time, and so and even like, I think if you can find people that you're comfortable with, maybe this is what I would say as somebody who's taught, you know, I like to teach Scrabble arts, especially because I love to take people who say they're not artists and turn them into artists and then let them loose in the world and then watch them go and then be like, bye, you don't need me anymore.
That artist.
Yeah, is find that person that you're comfortable with, that you can talk about your stuff with, talk about it and go through that process, because it gets easier. And then you realize whatever mistakes that you've made they're part of the learning process. It's not like you just can't treat your art like it's your baby and not let anyone talk bad about it and fight them over it. It's like, no, it's this thing. And if you're trying to be an artist or a creator, you have to get that critical eye. Otherwise you cannot get better. Like you need that. And to me, that is crucial to that process. And it's just finding a way to kind of deal with the emotional baggage that comes with it, especially if you've never done any art and you're doing it for the first time. It feels like there's a deep like vulnerability, because I think our culture tells you growing up that art is a worthless thing, or you can't make money at it, or you're not good at it, or if you don't have some inherent talent that you can't do it. But it's like 99% of what you do is not talent. It's about time and effort and development, and we all develop at different speeds. So you can't emotionally invest all of that in yourself.
Yeah. Sorry, my brain is still going.
No, I can talk about art forever.
No, that's great. What are you most looking forward to when we can be in person again?
I want to go give everyone that I know a hug, like super bad. And which is like, for me, I was never like a huge hugger. The SCA kind of turned me into that. But then after spending a year not seeing anyone, I'm ready to like awkwardly hug and party with literally everyone that I know. Maybe even if I don't know you, that's fine. I'll wear a pin that says like hug life. Like,
Hey, can we
let's
hug?
hug it out. Yeah.
You gotta get it on your hands.
Yeah. Just like being around other human beings again will be really fantastic.
Well, like that was for us, like we didn't realize just how much, like we knew we were missing it, but we didn't know how much until we made our trip around the kingdom.
Yeah.
Passing out scrolls and getting to spend time with people, even briefly.
Yeah.
It's definitely a wake-up call that.
Yeah, it's the worst. I feel like this whole last year reoriented my values as a person.
Yep.
And what I want out of life in general. Because that's a long time to sit and think.
Yeah, it's definitely a priority rearranger.
Soon.
Well, hopefully we're at the end of it. And
I hope so. I want to go to a stray war so bad.
I want to go to just anything at this point.
Right.
Even
That's true.
movies would be all right.
That's true. I will do anything.
Yeah, I want there to be fighter practices all over the place again.
Yeah.
I miss traveling for fighter practice.
Yeah. Just traveling in general.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never had so much PTO built up.
Mm-hmm.
It's ridiculous. Well, do you have any more questions,
I am
Mila?
tapped out of questions.
All right. Did you have anything that you would like to add before we wrap it up?
Not really, but I mean, I can chat about anything, really.
Well, we really appreciate you joining us tonight.
Well, thank you for having me.
It's been really lovely getting to know you better.
Yeah, like because of the Armor Archive, I knew of you, but we'd never really met. So it's nice to get to hear some of the backstory.
I know a lot of people from the Armor Archive. Like I spent a ton of time there. It was such a cool place.
And it stopped. I spent a ridiculous amount of time in there too.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of just ended. Like it was like almost in a blink. Like Facebook kind of took it over.
Yeah, and it's kind of a shame. I mean, the Armor Archive is the reason why I have a banner business. Someone was making them, and this was like in 2009, and made a bunch of commissions and then kind of dropped off the radar. And this was like the economic crisis was happening, and it's kind of responsible in a way for my career, because I did not have available money to go take this class. And so I was like, well, I can make banners. That's something I know how to do. Maybe I can, make enough money to pay for this class. And I've been doing it for over 10 years. It paid for my EMT class and got me my career and sustained me through, financial difficulty. Sometimes it was the only thing that was like, I would be struggling. And then sometimes I would get a commission and it would help me put food on the table or, buy Christmas presents and stuff. So I feel very lucky to have been able to do that. And so much of that business came from the Armor Archive.
Yeah.
Isn't it weird how like the littlest things like can have such a profound impact on your life?
Mhm.
Like I can't even tell you how many people I could name that have gained management skills just
Yeah.
because they've run events or held an office or what have you,
It's true. I mean, this is a hobby that kind of weasels its way into a lot of aspects of your life.
All
You know?
aspects.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's made me a better person. It's made me, more introspective and like more willing to try new things. I'm not kidding. I want to do all of the things. I want to do all of the arts. And so now I'm just doing whatever sort of suits my fancy at the time, and all of those skills, like I would never have learned,
Yeah.
except that this weird hobby gives you the opportunity to meet people who can literally make anything. And now everyone's putting it like on YouTube and stuff. So you actually have a great opportunity to learn almost anything.
Right? So cool.
Yeah, it's been amazing for sure.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And I do very much look forward to getting to awkwardly hug you at an event.
It's only because I'm awkward and I'm also tall. So
Also
sometimes that makes
awkward,
hugging
so
weird.
It's fine.
Awkward's okay.
Yeah.
How many times did you
No,
spell
stop it.
it? Every time she hears the word, she spells it in her head.
It's true.
It's spelled weird.
Yeah.
Right? Awkwardly even.
Mhm.
You didn't
So-
hit it?
I didn't. You didn't say we're done?
I think we're done.
I think we're done.
Good night.
Good night.
Oh, you didn't hit it.